All eyes focused on college football's biggest rivalry.
They started having like a countdown on ESPN and ABC. They'd be like, hey, watch Ohio State versus Northwestern just a full week before they take on Michigan. It was kind of so drawn up and the hype was so long that it was just an amazing dynamic.
I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I didn't look at their schedule and go, okay, they're going to win out. And look at our schedule and go, okay, if we take care of business, which we should, we're going to win out. This is going to be one heck of a game.
Neither team disappointed. Like two trains running on the same track, number 1 Ohio State and number 2 Michigan were set to collide with more than the Big Ten title at stake.
Add a berth in the national championship game, the Big Ten title, all of that on top of 1 versus 2 in Columbus, and that game explodes nationally.
Not for 103 games previously had they ever come into this game, both teams undefeated. Never before had they had so much on the line in terms of the national championship. Troy Smith and Jim Tressel had taken control of this series in a way that really turned it on its ear. With each win by Ohio State, the pressure had built to the point that this was a year that Michigan really had to win this game.
All or nothing today, baby.
Michigan was a popular pick by all sorts of people who looked at the defense with Lamar Woodley and Alan Branch and thought that they could really handle Troy Smith and handle the Buckeyes running game, and this was Michigan's year.
Thursday after practice, I'd asked Bo to come in and speak to the team. And he came in and he was not feeling well. But I asked him if he wanted a chair. No, he don't want a chair. He was going to stand and talk to the team. And he did.
He's a tough guy. He's not going to show if he's feeling weak or anything like that. So he looked normal. You know, he talked like he always talked. You know, yelled at us, did the things he had to do to get us ready for the game. And anyway else, it wouldn't have been Bo.
We disperse and we're meeting the next day. I'm on my way into the office about 9:30, and I hear over the radio that Bo has had a heart attack. And then I get a call that he has passed away.
You know, when you look across the way, you can't help but think about Bo Schembechler. Of course, he passed away yesterday after delivering his final speech to the team the night before. We can only reflect on what's going through the minds of coaches and players.
The Big Ten has lost a legend and icon. Ohio State has lost an alumnus and friend. The Schembechler family has lost a beloved father, grandfather, and husband. Bo made the game of football better in every way. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and everyone who mourns his passing.
Wherever you are, whatever you do, this is your game. These are your teams. Their dreams are your dreams. It's that big. The biggest to date. In a rivalry rich in emotions and mythology.
Legends are made in this game.
Bo on one side, Woody on the other.
Charles Woodson had an unbelievable game.
This game was a Heisman for me.
Charles Woodson down the sideline. Touchdown, Michigan.
You're judged at Michigan by what you do against Ohio State.
Rex Kern and Archie Griffin. Desmond Howard pulling the Heisman on us.
And today, for the first time in over 100 years, they meet as number 1 against number 2.
When you talk about rivalries, this is the top.
This is the biggest of them all.
Troy Smith is a heck of a football player.
You got to be born with what number 10 just did.
He has a knack to make things happen.
We got a great defense. We'll see how great a quarterback he is.
That defense is nasty.
Everyone is watching.
That's the season. There is no other game.
Everyone cares.
This is the national championship game.
Everybody's together.
It's just the best of the best.
It doesn't get any better.
Everybody's there.
Where else is there to be? Say this would be one for the ages.
So who wins in this one?
This is the biggest game ever.
Everybody. Jim Trussell and the Ohio State Buckeyes preparing to come out. Alumni of this great football tradition here in Columbus, helping form the tunnel, and here comes the #1 team in the land.
Flutie flushed, throws it down. Caught by Boston College. I don't believe it. It's a touchdown.
It's up. Missed it to the right. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown.
All right, welcome everybody to the College Football Retro Show. I'm your host, Dan Murphy, alongside my co-host, Brian Barnes. Brian, we continue the Ohio State-Michigan Marathon with one of the best, I think maybe the best game of this rivalry, the 2006 matchup, Michigan versus Ohio State. What are your initial thoughts?
Hey, Dan. Yeah, I mean, obviously the hype train was unreal, as we saw in the cold open. You know, the first time both of these teams were undefeated coming into this game, and you know, added effect with Bo Schembechler passing away the day before. And people sometimes forget, like, he worked for Woody Hayes at Ohio State, and he's an Ohio guy, and so the respect level from both programs was there, and it just added to the aura of this game. And again, it was pre-playoff era, right? And so this really was like, you know, you're out, you know. And there was some thought after this that potentially they were still the 2 best teams in the country, and there could be a rematch. We'll get to that later. But yeah, it was a great game. And like you said, it's as the game went on, you know, Michigan started off really well, and then Ohio State kind of took control a little bit. And I think Ohio State controlled the game for the most part, but I never felt like it was out of Michigan's grasp or out of reach watching this game. You know what I mean? It was a couple plays here and there, but Ohio State's offense was so good that year that it was just hard for Michigan to get stops consistently in this game. And then toward the end, there's a big play on the sideline by Matt Crable. You know, we're going to talk about, I'm sure, that you know, Michigan had an opportunity to get off the field and get the ball back and end up going down and win the game. But yeah, just kind of a good. I mean, just it was a game that lived up to the hype, I think, in our lifetime, right? And that doesn't always happen. And it's one of the best ever.
Yeah, it's rare that you get the buildup of this magnitude, and then for the game to actually live up to it, it's pretty special. And all the star players, you know, showed up in this game and balled out too. That you can't ask for anything more. And Michigan had a couple opportunities in the fourth quarter where it was a 1-score game where they could have came back and tied or taken the lead, and just weren't able to do it. But yeah, I mean, it did feel like Ohio State kind of controlled things. They got a 2-score lead. It felt like it kept going 2-score, 1-score, 2-score, 1-score. And Michigan rarely had opportunities where they had an opportunity to get the ball and take the lead. I think there was 1 or 2 times in the fourth quarter, and they weren't able to capitalize. But yeah, just an incredibly, you know, special game. And to me, this was my favorite game, even though as a Michigan fan, you know, Michigan didn't win this game. It was my favorite game in the rivalry up until a couple of years ago, the 2023 game, where I didn't think there would be another game that could live up to that in terms of the buildup and the anticipation. But 2023 did, more so probably because a lot of things that were happening off the field, you know, with the scandal and all that, and the drama, and Harbaugh being suspended for the game and all that stuff, kind of made that one as Is close to it, maybe better. I think it depends. Yeah, I think if you're an Ohio State fan, you'd say the 2006 game was your favorite. Probably, if you're a Michigan fan, you might say the 2023 game was your favorite. But without a doubt, this is right up there as one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I wonder if you're an Ohio State fan, if you like the 13-9 game, the 2002 season better, where the Ohio State ends up going on
the national title season,
right? So that would be, I guess, probably the only thing that beats it. And I'm curious too if old school football fans, and to a degree that's me as well. They like that low scoring field position type game anyway. This wasn't that. You know what I mean? Like this was. I mean, there were athletes all over the field. Troy Smith's winging it around, and Chad Henne's winging it around. I mean, it was not like that at all. So a little bit different in that regard, but either way, still a great game.
Yeah, it's with Bo passing, the joke was that he made sure to pass so he could go up and watch the game with Woody Hayes together, because it was such such a big game that they had to go watch it together. And it's funny because it was just the complete opposite of a type of game that they coached in, because it was just such high scoring and just an absolute shootout.
Yeah, and well, like you said earlier, like Michigan, it just didn't feel like they could get that one stop, or they could get that opportunity to have that drive to go take the lead, right? It was just Ohio State's offense was so good, and Troy Smith was such a good college quarterback that year, and I mean, won the Heisman Trophy. So that was, that was the irony is palpable.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into it, Brian. We can go in and look at the rosters and coaching staffs for both teams.
Sounds good, Dan. Yeah, we're gonna start with Michigan, and if you have the graphic, put it up for me, and we'll go right through it. Like Michigan, like they were, again, a lot of these names were in the NFL. Chad Henne was good. Everybody knows Mike Hart, and obviously he became a coach, and we talked about the little brother stuff with Michigan State, but he was I think 5th in the Heisman Trophy race this year. He's a really good running back, and the receivers, were explosive, and Steve Bredston was a great punt returner, ended up playing in the NFL. And the best name on this list is probably Jake Long, ended up being a number 1 overall pick by the Miami Dolphins. And it was actually pretty cool. He's kind of local up here in Michigan, and I had an opportunity to have a class with one of his best friends down at Wayne State, and he got to go to the NFL draft with Jake and just hearing stories and stuff. Just a good dude and just a great football player. And so, really, Michigan was still kind of in that, like they hadn't fully adapted to the spread scheme yet, and there's a little criticism of that, and we'll talk about that later. But they were still, they had dudes, and this is still a pretty good offense.
And just to add in here, Brian, so they have a fullback up there instead of another receiver, which is kind of odd, because Michigan at this time was more ace formation. A lot. It was a lot of one tight end, 3 receivers. So the receiver that I'm not seeing on there is Mario Manningham.
Yeah,
who would play a big factor and obviously have a good NFL career and be a big time receiver, Super Bowl,
big
kind of legend for the
kind
Giants.
Of a big catch in the Super Bowl for the Giants. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember to beat the Patriots that one year. Yeah. Yeah. But again, great. Fantastic players on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Michigan's defense.
Yeah. So again, like guys that we hear about, that are in the NFL, like the one that stands out the most, Lamar Woodley. Like I watched him playing in high school, Saginaw. Man, he was the best player on the field, and you knew he was a special guy. But again, a lot of good football players here, and again, sprinkled with a few Ohio guys like Prescott Burgess and Sean Crable, and Will Behringer. Just adds to this rivalry for sure.
And I just remember how physical and violent this defense was, and a Penn State game kind of stood out to me that season where they knocked out their starting 2 quarterbacks. They knocked out the starter, then they knocked out the backup, and that was actually a pretty close game. If I remember, I think it was like 17-10 Michigan. It was kind of a low scoring game, but Michigan's defense just absolutely dominated and was violent really all season, which was so surprising to me in this game that Ohio State was pretty much able to do what they wanted to offensively, because Michigan's defense was so good that year.
It was, and you heard Charles Woodson in the cold open talk about how good this defense was, and if anybody knows defenses, he does, because he was on one of the best ever, right, in '97, and totally agree with that. And you mentioned that game against Penn State, going into the season, Michigan started the season ranked 14th. So they weren't, that you're never going to downplay a Michigan roster. But when you look at the 14th ranking in the preseason, you don't look at a team that's potentially national championship caliber. But so was the season kind of a shock, or like you mentioned, like that was kind of a shock? I mean, in the beginning, I would say yes. But as the season went on, like you started to get that feel like, all right, no, they're pretty legit. Like week 3, they hammered Notre Dame in South Bend.
In Notre Dame.
Yeah, you do that. I mean, that's going to open some eyes, and that's what happened. And this defense, like you said, was really good.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the 2005 team that had a really down year, but it was more just a lot of close losses. It just kind of, had some bad breaks in some games and some bad bounces, and things just didn't go their way. They lost quite a few games that year, but that was still a pretty good team. And this is Chad Henne's. this would be going into junior year. This is going to be his 3rd year as a starter.
Yeah,
I thought I was a little surprised that they were kind of ranked so low. If they go back to the 05 season and how many games they lost, but this is really, really good roster.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind though, it was a 5-loss season the year before. They lost their last 2 games to Ohio State and then the Alamo Bowl to Nebraska, but they also lost that year to Minnesota, which it's a rivalry game, right? The Little Brown Jug, but that they typically dominate that series. You know what I'm saying? And so being a 5-loss team going into that next season, but keep in mind, like that was also kind of around the time people started questioning Lloyd Carr, or they're wondering why he hadn't evolved yet to the modern offenses and defense that were happening. Right. And that kind of started then. And then, so that was going on into the season and leading up to it. And then it was pretty cool for his perspective to like be 11-0 going into this game to kind of shut people up a little bit. But then ironically, after this season that talk kind of started ramping up again. But like you said, though, they still have a great roster. So shouldn't be surprised at all in theory that they ended up being really good.
End up being in this spot, going in the number 1 versus number 2, going in here 11-0. So we'll go into
speaking
of obviously great rosters. Ohio State, we'll start with their offense here.
Yep, Troy Smith, Heisman Trophy winner, and then you look at all those names right there, and the one that really stands out to everybody is Ted Ginn Jr. And I actually thought he'd be a better pro than he was, but he was awesome. Like he was their version of like Desmond Howard, right? In terms of like returning punts and what he did at receiver as well. Just an explosive guy. And Troy Smith, again, like he had a little bit of an NFL career. I want to say he was with the Ravens a little bit, and I'm sure some other teams, but that's where I remember him. And just really good. And not maybe like Anthony Gonzalez played a little bit in the NFL, and he's a coach now. Brian Rubisky. So I mean they were legit, but it all started with that quarterback position, right? And the numbers that Troy Smith put up.
And then not on here is running back Beanie Wells, Chris Wells. He was a freshman this season, and he would have a huge play in this game, long run. But they used Pittman and Wells quite a bit as a tandem, and man, they were dynamic.
They were good. They were really good.
And then we'll go ahead and go to Ohio State's defense here.
Yeah, a couple, again, the big one that stands out to me, there's a couple like Malcolm Jenkins is really good. And then Vernon Golston, who was from Detroit Southeastern, who ended up playing in the NFL. I believe he was drafted by the Jets. I might have to go back and check that. But really good defense. Not as many names that you would think like, are All-Americans or playing in the NFL. But another one, especially James Laurinaitis, and his dad was a WWE like wrestler, right? He was he kind of fit that Ohio State linebacker mold like Andy Katzenmoyer had and Chris Spielman. If you look at him, just really good college football player.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, the rosters for both teams. I mean, just it speaks to why this is 1 versus 2. Both teams 11-0 going into this game. These were the 2 best teams. As we thought going into this game, the bowl games, as we would we'll talk about after this game, the aftermath. We would find out that maybe they weren't the top 2 teams. It's debatable, but going into this game, nationally, everybody knew that, this is it, man. These are the 2 best teams in the country. This is the greatest rivalry in sports. What anticipation, what build up, man. This was it was incredible. And we talked about it, but man, I don't know if I'll ever see anything like that again where ESPN had the countdown clock. It was literally 4 weeks ahead of time. And I remember when they did it, I'm like, whoa, you're putting a lot of expectations. I mean, this is college football, man. These are 18 to 22-year-olds. They still got 4 weeks to go.
Yeah.
Like, and you're putting time clocks. And it's not like just clocks like they would just put it up during sports. I mean, it was literally 24/7 on ESPN, a clock at the bottom of the screen counting down to this game. I've never seen anything like it since then.
No, I don't, and I'm with you. I don't think we will. Going into this game, the BCS rankings, because again, that's what we use then. Michigan and Ohio State were 1 and 2, and then USC and Florida were 3 and 4, and they both had 1 loss, right? And again, though, because of the playoff era, right? I don't think you're going to get a hype of this magnitude, because as important as this game was, if they're playing in 2025, they're both in. And then they're questioning, are they resting people? And, do they want to even win to go play in the Big Ten championship game? Would you rather have that week off, right? I mean, unfortunately. So all those factors play into it, man, like Bo's death and the rivalry. Just I don't think we will see it again.
And the atmosphere of this too, Brian. I mean, you just look at it, you just see the colors, but then when you hear the sound of it, it's just like you rarely can you really feel it through the television. But this game, man, you could feel the tension and the energy and the anticipation and the excitement just coming through your television speakers, man. It was something.
So I love all sports, right? But like, to me, the only time I ever feel like that type of feeling is when I watched like Red Sox Yankees in 04, like 03, 04, that time, right? That's the only one to me that in my perspective, I give that same comparison. Like, holy heck, like one side is just going to be miserable and depressed for 12 months. You know what I'm saying? And that's just like this.
Yeah. Yep. So there we go. We got everything laid out. We got the whole story, everything that led him to this game. We got the rosters. It's 1 versus 2. It's undefeated versus undefeated. It's Michigan, Ohio State, 2006. So let's go ahead and go into the deep dive here.
In college football. And finally, we are underway. And it'll go out of the end zone, come out on the 20-yard line.
Michigan, we get the ball first here.
Drop slant, got it.
Get a big play to Manningham right off the bat.
47-yard line, Mario Manningham, his first reception. They go right at number 14, the walk-on Antonio Smith, who's now on scholarship. Deeper drop, Hinney keeps it in the air and keeps it in the arm. They're going to keep it airborne. They think they can do business against the secondary.
Still looking like, that pro-style offense, under center, 5-step drop, 7-step drop, lead ISO.
And Hart had a fantastic game in this one, too.
He did.
Hinney again, slant, got it, reaching for the end zone. No, wait a minute now.
And that's why I always talk about, like, scheme sometimes is overrated, right?
They come back with the running back. Michigan strikes first. Somewhere, someplace, Bo Schembechler is smiling.
Michigan gets the ball right at the jump, man, drive right down the field and score.
Rolling to the right. A strike to again for the first.
Yeah, can't ask for a better start.
Troy Smith back there.
Yeah, on the road, we can talk about all the build-up, all the anticipation, and you're on the road, the crowd's going crazy, and to get a drive like that up right at the bat, man, kind of settles you down a little bit.
I think that's an early big play right there, because I think it was like 3rd and 17.
Yes, so they actually would convert 4 third downs on this drive.
Roy Hall's second catch. Play fake.
And this is, it's going to be 3rd and goal here in a second. Yeah, 3rd and goal right here.
I mean, how crazy is it? Again, 3rd and goal from the 2 or 3, and they're empty 5 wide.
Yeah, totally different than the games we had done previously to this one.
I'm not opposed to it, but
no, I'm not either.
Just wild.
Had time. Through hard for the first down.
But yeah, Ohio State answers back, and that was the kind of the story of this game, Brian, was Michigan's defense's inability to get off the field so many times. Michigan's forced to punt there.
Well, and you know, this football has become such a game of matchups, right? And you know, Ohio State's receivers, they won a lot of matchups against Michigan's secondary this game.
Yeah. 3rd and 1, Ohio State gets the stop. So after both teams get touchdowns on the opening drives, they ended up putting back and forth a little bit.
Well, the game's kind of settled in a little bit, but then Chris Wells happens.
And there's Beanie Wells getting the play we had talked about earlier. Big rushing touchdown.
Miss a tackle, and one thing the spread offense does for you too is there's less guys to block in the box, and when you miss a tackle, that could be a problem.
The freshman and the most heavily recruited running back in the country, Chris Wells, ignites a
Another interesting thing about this game too, Brian, this is a 3:30 start. We're used to it being a noon start. I like the 3:30 start.
I do
It
too.
starts off in the daylight and then second half in the dark.
I agree. I do too. So that's a play right there. Like that's a Troy Smith like Heisman play right there. You know what I mean?
What a play by first Smith. Leon Hall missed a tackle. And Pittman now daylight 10. Second down, powering ahead.
Take a shot.
Great fake. Wide open.
And it's a phenomenal throw too.
Touchdown, Ohio State.
Right on the money.
And it was off a beautiful fake by Troy Smith. A 39-yard explosion.
So after Michigan takes a 7-0 lead, and Ohio State really starts to take control of this game.
You know, and kind of the thoughts for the game coming up this Saturday, Dan, is that, you know, if Michigan gets into a shootout, they're in trouble, right? Like the thing is, people aren't sure if Michigan can match Ohio State score for score this Saturday. Kind of in a way, like how you felt this game, although Michigan did in this game match up score for score, pretty close, right?
Got his man down the sideline. Touchdown.
Like that's a great answer going into the half. You know what I'm saying? Or pretty close to the half right there. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a big moment here because Ohio State gets the ball back here. 2 minutes left, and they also get the ball coming out at halftime.
Yep.
So it's a 7-point game right here.
He stands in that pocket and hits Robisky again. Here's Gonzalez again, open underneath for another first.
Just making guys miss, breaking tackles all over the place, which you just didn't see from Michigan.
Gonzalez at the 11. That's also wanted to emphasize in that timeout.
You know, the other thing you notice too, this Ohio State scheme, like they're in the gun and they're getting rid of the ball quick. I mean, he's not sitting back there reading progressions and stuff. I mean, he's probably looking at a pre-snap matchup and like boom, ball's gone. So like, you know, people say, well, Michigan didn't get a lot of pressure. Well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to. That's why quarterbacks, that's why offenses are in the gun and get rid of the ball quick.
So that was a pretty big stop for Michigan there coming out of the half. They were down 2 scores. Ohio State got the ball first, but they were able to get the 3 and out.
Burned his body out and opened that hole. First down. Come right back with the running play to the 2-yard line on the first and goal. Hart, touchdown, Michigan. Call your friends, folks. Call them right now. This one's getting
Get it back to a 1-score game.
Isn't it amazing? They start the game with a great drive.
And Musburger's saying it right there. Oh, call your friends. Like, it's about to get good. And I remember when Michigan scored that because there was a feeling like, man, this might be slipping away here, especially when Ohio State scored the touchdown at the end of the half and they got the ball to start the second half. You're feeling like, oh, man, this might get out of hand. But for Michigan to get the stop and then come back and score and that Hart touchdown, I'm like, yeah, it was a game now. And it really was a game when they came back and get this interception here.
Well, and in my opinion, this is where the game was won and lost because Michigan gets this turnover.
They go 3 and out here.
And don't punch it in to score the matchup, right? Now you still are like playing a possession behind.
Catch up. You're still playing catch up. And you're putting your defense like you have to get a stop again.
Correct. Or if you're tied.
And they're unable to. This was the major gut punch because you got that turnover, but you couldn't score a touchdown. You had to kick a field goal, and then Ohio State comes right back and gets this absolute gut punch.
Two possessions again. You're behind, right? Where if it's 35-28, you're still not happy.
You got that pick, you're thinking, oh my goodness, we're in the red zone. We can tie this game, and then I'm blinking eye, you're down 2 scores.
Has time. Fires it off into the middle for the 1st and 10. Straight back. Coming deep. Got Arrington again. 1st and 10, and Arrington to the right.
It's going to be a 4th and 10 here for Michigan. They got a good drive going, but they could definitely go on the 4th down.
Throwing in underneath.
Go underneath.
That's wild. 4th and 10, 7-step drop.
Not a great play.
And you
Not a great play. Not a great play.
Incomplete.
But Michigan's defense comes back. It's a stop.
They're going to try
Michigan gets the ball back.
Going long downfield. Manningham. Jenkins jumps for it, and he's got it. Intercepts it.
Intercept. So that was 3rd and 1.
Indisputable video evidence. The pass is
they call it incomplete, but Michigan doesn't go for it, and they decide to punt. It's very surprising. But they come back and get a fumble. So the game. This was a real crazy point of the game. It just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Mistakes.
And suddenly,
a huge fumble for Michigan.
Takes another twist.
Alan Branch played in the NFL, had a good career. I think it was an Arizona Cardinals.
End around. Preston trying to get free. Needs a block. End zone. Reaches. Touchdown, Michigan.
We're going to review this. Call him short.
Indisputable video evidence. The runner did not score. It'll be 3rd and goal. Half-yard line.
Stop. Can't be stopped.
For being an undersized back, like he was a tough kid. Like, he ran
so strong.
An amazing performance by 5'9" Mike Hart out of Syracuse.
They're blitzing it, playing man.
A strike. Again, spins around to the outside. And out of fumble. Ball's on the ground again on a bad snap.
This is another key play here. Michigan gets the fumble.
Daddish, who snapped one high a short time
and they're down
ago,
4.
Has another
So they got the ball.
snap.
4th quarter, 12 minutes to go.
And Michigan takes over.
They got an opportunity. It's like the first opportunity in a while throughout the game that they can come back and take the lead. But they go 3 and out.
And a great fake again by Smith as he hands it off. It's like a draw play. Here's Pittman. Daylight sideline. Finally pushed out of bounds at the 45-yard. Showing blitz. Stands on the slant. The Bucks. Looking in that direction.
This is the 3rd and line. This is the big play here.
This is free now. He'll throw.
Sean Crable.
Smith was going out of bounds. Personal foul.
You're going to see the replay here. There's no question about it. This is the definition of a personal foul.
There's obviously no guarantee that Michigan's going to go score. But dude, you got to know.
Like, I mean, it's late on the quarterback, on the sideline, helmet to helmet. I mean, it's checked every box.
It's hard when you're an athlete, defensive player, and you're flying around, but like that's a situation. There's no guarantee that Michigan's going to go score and take the lead.
As Jim Tressel fires away.
So I just want to pause it real quick there, Brian. And we talk about legacies in this rivalry, in this game, right? Like, even if you don't have maybe the greatest career, you don't go on to the NFL. Like, if you have a great game, like a signature performance or a signature play in this game, you're going to be remembered forever.
Yeah.
And Troy Smith, obviously this game, but his whole career versus Michigan, like he stamped his legacy in this game for sure.
Yeah.
Winning the Heisman Trophy and just being incredible in this game. But also on the other end, like you can be remembered for great things, but you also can remember for bad things. And Sean Crable's remembered, unfortunately, for that play.
Which is where the educator in me feels awful because that's still a 21-year-old kid, right? But that's just reality. And you know that when you go to play football at the University of Michigan. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of good things bestowed upon you that he got from playing at Michigan. But you're right. That unfortunately is something that this game and he's told and we all believe that, or I believe that, one play doesn't determine a game, and to Michigan's credit, they do go down and answer after this. But Yeah, that play, and he was hearing it, I'm sure, and I'm sure if like Twitter, I don't think was really big yet then, and social media.
No, but as we talk about like on campus and
I'm
he's
sure
getting looks going
I'm
into the
sure he's got the
classroom.
hood on and his hat on going to class. Yeah, I mean the kid still has to go to class on Monday. You know what I mean? That's that's rough. But you're right though. You're right.
Yep.
And now that's only that mindset. Criticism of kids is only getting bigger with NIL and the amount of money that's involved in it.
Well, they can,
Now it's a little bit.
He can go back to his $1 million now that he's got in the bank, and drive back to class in his Ferrari, and I feel so bad about it.
Yeah, he'll be okay. Yeah.
There is Manningham, and that's a first down at midfield, and then.
But yeah, give Michigan credit. This will be a 4th down play here.
Time.
It was a great catch.
Pass interference, actually.
No pass interference.
Put in position, but this would have been a 1-score game. Think about how huge this pass interference would have been.
Yeah.
They kept Michigan in the game.
Firing, diving, rolling. Away from the pressure, still has to throw and does. Complete, touchdown, Michigan. Bounce right back, and they hit Tyler Ecker.
Get the 2-point conversion here.
Throws for it, and he's got it.
It's a 3-point game, but they're out of timeouts,
so
they got to go for the onside kick.
That they're going to kick it to the kicker's left. Here it is, onside kick, battle for the scrum.
And Dan, I'm
State recovers.
Right.
I'm curious.
So, they didn't. I guess it was just enough time that they had to run plays, but they ended up getting the first down here on the 3rd down.
I'm curious, Dan, if we had to go back, like, how did Michigan use those timeouts? Right, and there's always a question, like, if you save your timeouts for the end of the game and stuff like that. In that situation, I'm sure Lloyd Carr would have wished he had, his timeouts, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to, they had really 2 key opportunities. After they got that fumble, it was a 4-point game, 35-31, I believe at the time. And they got that fumble. There's still about 8 minutes left. And then they just come back and go 3 and out.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, it was like their chance right there. And then they punted back to Ohio State, and he got the stop. I mean, Michigan would have been pinned probably inside their own 10, most likely it would have a decent punt, but still you would have had the opportunity. And then that roughing the quarterback, man. Ohio State, man, you got to give them the credit though. It's because it was still 4-point game. Like after that personal foul, like you as a defense, you gotta stand up and make a play, make a series of plays, and force them to kick a field goal. And they couldn't do it. And Troy Smith gets the touchdown to Robisky, and that was kind of it.
I wonder if going into the game, Michigan coaches said, "Hey, if you would have told them, we're scoring 39 points again in this game, how are we feeling?" And I bet you they'd all say,
defense,
we're feeling pretty good, right? And it just didn't happen. But it was a great game, and Ohio State, all the credit in the world for, like you said, like getting stops when they had to, but making plays on offense when they had to as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the aftermath here, Brian, because obviously Michigan loses. They would end up going to the Rose Bowl, but Ohio State goes to the national championship game.
It was so like I said before, going to the BCS rankings before this game, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, and Florida. And USC got upset when they played UCLA. And because the thinking was USC would have been USC and Ohio State in the national championship game. And they get upset. So now they have 2 losses. And then Florida wins the SEC championship game against Arkansas, right? And I remember that game vividly, and so do Big Ten fans and Michigan fans, because Gary Danielson was slobbering over Florida, and just how is this team, and then so because there was
I remember that game as a Michigan fan too, and I remember Darren McFadden was one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the country, and he hurt his ankle in that game, and Arkansas was leading that game. I think they had like a 10-point lead or something like that, and McFadden got hurt. And also a huge one of the great calls of Urban Meyer's career, where they called a fake punt his own 10. And they got it, and that was a big turnaround in that game. But Gary Danielson was going.
I mean, he was employed by CBS in this, right? And he, and whatever. But because there was talk still, like, hey, if Ohio State and Michigan are the 2 best teams in the country, let's just let them play again. And then Florida ends up becoming the number 2 team in the BCS rankings. And then what frustrated me, and this is how much I knew, like I remember the talk then you started to hear about, the SEC is different and they're just fast, and you can't match the speed. And I remember thinking like, well, there's a lot of ways to win football games. Speed's part of it, right? But the physicality and there's a lot of other ways. And then you go watch the national championship game, and Ohio State, Ted Ginn Jr. returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and we're like, yep, should have been Michigan. And then, but then Florida just bolt races on the rest of the game, right? Yeah. And that was a Chris Leak, right? This is pre-Tim Tebow, Chris Leak era as a quarterback, and like Florida just manhandled them. And talking about all those things that you said, what Troy Smith did, and their receiver matchups against Michigan, and how Michigan couldn't get off the field, it felt like, where Florida, it was like, they manhandled them. And then the crazy part for Michigan, and here's what I remember more than anything during this time, is they go into the Rose Bowl, which was still a big deal then, right? You're still playing for the Rose Bowl, but I'm sure there was a letdown, and they lose to USC. And I remember it was a close game, and then at halftime, though, after halftime, USC took over. And I remember the talk then so much about how, why doesn't Michigan, they got to go in the gun and they got to open it up more. They obviously can't match up with this, they didn't make these adjustments. And I remember thinking to myself, well, they can't just go put it in at halftime if it's not in their scheme, right? But that started ramping it up. And then week 1 the next season, they lose at home to Appalachian State with pretty much this entire roster returning, right? Right. And then they lose to Oregon. So this started a Michigan run of 4 consecutive losses. And then you can pinpoint this, in my opinion, this game, this loss, because if they win and they're playing for a national championship, 0 chance the next season is Lloyd Carr's last season. But to me, you can go back to this game as the prelude to the Rich Rodriguez era at Michigan, because everybody was clamoring so much for the spread. And I'm a big spread guy. I love it, but it's still all about fit too, and culture and all that other stuff. We can talk about that later on in Rich Rod's, era at Michigan, but it started right there, and everybody was clamoring for it. They watched Florida and what they did on the field and their speed, and Ohio State, and Michigan, if they can run the spread with all the athletes they get and they recruit, man, they're going to dominate. And obviously, history tells you that it didn't work out. But to me, it all started here. Even before the Appalachian State game, it all started with this game right here.
In retrospect, it was a dumb thought process by the fan base. And I was one of them. I mean, I was young at the time. I hadn't gotten into coaching yet. I was like 18, 19 years old at the time. But I'm like looking at, these quarterbacks, and I'm looking at Florida, I'm looking West Virginia, look at how they're running their offense, and I liked how they had ran the read option, but everybody was like spread. But you watch this game, and we talked about it, like it's a lot of 3 receiver sets, 1 running back, 1 tight end, like that's it's not 3 backs in the backfield, wing T, or power I. It's pretty spread. Like I would consider ace formation kind of a variation of a spread to some degree, but it was just more of it's traditional drop back quarterbacks with Chad Henne was a running quarterback.
Correct. That to me is the difference right there. Is that I think when people were talking, because there are a ton of different versions of the spread, obviously, like Drew Brees being in the gun is totally different than Lamar Jackson, right? So like I think it's more people were thinking the athletic quarterback, right? The mobile quarterback who could do both run and throw the ball. I think that's what people were clamoring for at Michigan at that time after this stretch of losing 4 in a row, right? But I still go back to it. If they win this game, you never know how that game against Florida plays out, right? You never know how their matchups and whatnot, right? And then if Michigan's a national champion in that 2006 season, like you're not getting Rich Rodriguez. You're just not, which is just, revisionist history, which is mind-boggling to think about.
But when you get a coach like Rich Rodriguez, you're changing everything that you've been. It's like your style is completely different, and you've recruited for so long and have such a tradition of being a certain way, and to try to completely switch it wasn't needed. It just wasn't needed.
Well, and Michigan State fans don't like to hear this from me, but like that era, the Rich Rod and then the Brady Hoke era, like they know football. Right, I'm not denying that at all. Rich Rodriguez again is considered one of the inventors of the spread offense, that everybody does a version of now, like to a degree, right? But Michigan was recruiting different type of guys to fit their scheme than they did previously under Lloyd Carr and, going years back, right? So they weren't recruiting the gigantic offensive linemen, the 310-pound dudes that would just maul people, right? They weren't recruiting the taller receivers that were lighter, they were getting faster, things like that nature. And so that allowed, in my opinion, Michigan State, especially in-state, to do a great job recruiting, and then they were able to get into the city of Detroit and get some dudes out of there. Yeah. Michigan wasn't getting where. Michigan was still getting guys nationally, right? Tate Forcier and Denard Robinson, right? But it was still just a little bit different. And another dynamic that somebody told me once was, so when Michigan's ones were going against their ones in practice during the Rich Rod era, right? Like they were going against their defense was going against a lighter offense. Right. And so when you go match up in the Big Ten then, and you're going against Wisconsin and Michigan State, and they were still big. I mean, they're not like light spread teams. Like they were still your big, typical Big Ten teams. Like when people talked about Michigan's defense, you can't be an odd front in the Big Ten. Well, I think it was more than that. I think it was a personnel thing, right? The personnel part that you couldn't match up. You can't match that physicality, especially in practice. And we talk about that all the time defensively. So there was just, you're right. It was unfortunately, I think it was Michigan, like, flavor of the month. They felt like they needed to change something different, and it just wasn't a good fit. And you could tell early on if you read John U. Bacon's book, I think it's 3 and Out, where he talks about Rich Rodriguez early on, just wasn't a good fit. And sometimes that happens in college football or sports in general. Great coaches just aren't a good fit, and that he definitely wasn't there. And he's probably kicking himself for not going to Alabama, because you remember Rich Rodrigez initially agreed to go to Alabama before that, and chose not to. So. And ironically, it all works out. He's back at West Virginia.
Yeah. But you look at you look at bad fits, and it's just you see him, and then sometimes it's obvious right away, and it just didn't seem right. I mean, when Rich Rod's first season, he flat out didn't have a quarterback that fit his system.
No,
so it was awful. It was one of the worst years in Michigan football history.
I think it was Stephen Threet, right? And people, people said like, well, why can't you, if he's such a good offensive guy, why can't he adapt his offense a little bit to that? It's like, it's not that easy. Like you are. I mean,
it's also his first year, so he wants to install what he's going to do long term.
Every position, like it's not just. I mean, it's every position. Like it's everything. It's the entire scheme, not just one player, right? And that was pretty tough. And I think something that would have potentially changed the whole dynamic of his tenure at Michigan is if Terrell Pryor, because remember he chose Ohio State over Michigan. If he goes to Michigan, maybe it's a little different story. Because you're talking about
hit the ground running a little bit.
Right. Yeah, but that didn't happen. And then he played Tate Forcier really young, and he was okay, but I mean he was still, I think it was like 18 years old, and he was an early enrollee playing really, really early. And and it was just a battle from the beginning.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to the defense, though, like you mentioned, and they were just undersized. They're trying to play a 3-5, but I don't think it was as much the scheme. And the scheme wasn't. I didn't love the scheme, but I don't think it was as much as much as it was the personnel.
For sure,
they were recruiting guys they were trying to be faster,
for sure,
and play a more faster style of defense, but that doesn't work in the Big Ten. It might work. It might have worked, like we talk about like now, like Ohio State recruits to win national titles. They don't recruit to win the Big Ten. Yeah. And that's, what I mean? It sounds kind of silly, but there's truth to it. Like to win week in and week out in the Big Ten, you got to be bigger. You got to be stronger. You got to be tougher to withstand a full season within the Big Ten, because that's just how the Big Ten is. That's how it's built. That's how these teams have established themselves, like the Wisconsins, the Iowas, like
who were really good
teams. They get the big, strong,
really good,
farm boys to go on the offensive defensive line.
Yep. And he always said, Rich Rod said too, especially his offense, like it wasn't humming right away, obviously, right? And it took some time. He let people know at Michigan, he's like, my offense typically around the year 3 or year 4 is when we really get going, and he let them know up front. But, fans don't want to hear that, the supporters and the donors and the season ticket holders don't want to hear that. They want success now. But it's just crazy how it all played out. And to me, it all goes back to this 2006 game.
Yeah. It's talking about like Rich Rod, like, it takes 3 years fans didn't want to rebuild.
No,
You
no.
know what I mean? Like, you're coming off, you were just
Yeah.
a year removed from this game where you're
Yep.
1 versus 2.
Yeah.
And it's not like 07 it started off bad, but they went on a run. They won like 8 or 9 games in a row. And then the guys were banged up. They lost to Ohio State. But then they bounced back and they beat Tim Tebow in Lloyd Carr's last game. And
So the other,
I remember Rich Rod was on the sidelines watching, and they were interviewing.
I remember. The other craziness to this was that Ryan Mallett was a highly ranked quarterback at Michigan who was going to replace Chad Henne, and he transferred to Arkansas. And I remember there were rumors, and it was in the book, and I don't know the validity of this, but that Lloyd Carr would allow kids to transfer out, or he gave them permission, or said, hey, it's okay, I'll let it slide and whatever. And so that sort of thing happened. So it almost kind of felt like Lloyd Carr did not have Rich Rodriguez's back, even though Lloyd Carr, I think, publicly said he did. He liked Rich Rodriguez and wished people would give him a chance, but there was so much to it. And then it's just, Michigan, you just got to the point where we're like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Like, this just ain't working, which is crazy. But if Ryan Mallett is not your typical mobile spread quarterback, but I think he would have been better than Stephen 3. I don't know if they're 3-9 or whatever they were his first year, if Ryan Mallett is their quarterback.
I wonder if they could go back. Did they just hire Jim Harbaugh? And he was at San Diego at the time, so he was just getting going in his coaching career. So he hadn't had any of the credentials, but he had I want to say at least 1 year under his belt as a coach. I wonder if they just at least interview him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give it some thought, because then you just continue the process. Mallett probably doesn't leave. He's going to be playing under Harbaugh.
Yeah.
You wonder how history would have played out. What if Harbaugh comes in and he's not successful?
Correct.
For a couple years.
Correct.
Who knows? Who
knows?
It's so funny to go back at these little pivot points.
I love what if history, Dan. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, well, like, what if Jim Harbaugh, like, during his time at San Diego and then obviously at Stanford and then the 49ers, like, he built his identity, right? Like, he really hadn't had an identity yet when he was coaching at San Diego. I think he was still developing that, right? And so maybe.
Well, I think his identity was stemmed from when he played under Bo at Michigan.
Well, yes, but I guess in terms of as a head coach and like having the success with that identity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think it would have been I think Michigan would have been going out on a ledge right there if they would have decided, like, hey, we're going to hire Jim Harbaugh from San Diego, right? You know what I mean? I think that would have been, they'd have been going out like really.
I don't know because he's so beloved at that point. Still, as the Michigan legend, from the 80s, he's, under Bo, the whole deal. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if they had felt like they were getting ahead of things and they thought like, yeah, this guy's going to be great, and they went ahead and ran with it. I don't know.
But beloved because of their playing days is different than being beloved as a coach. Right?
Oh, so, I know. He's still obviously he would have had to prove it, and
you know what I mean.
Success. But I just mean like an initial hire.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the fan base would have been like upset about it.
No, I don't think.
That's pretty wild. That's interesting.
Agreed.
But
you got to remember though.
Let's see how it goes.
It was there was the Les Miles stuff and all that going on, right? The Rich Rod was the new hotness. I mean, there were names though, right? Guys that were like national caliber names. And I think that's where Michigan, I remember saying, like, I think they sold their soul a little bit by going outside the Michigan family, and that's not a knock on Rich Rod in that regard. But, like, yeah, it's not them. It's not who they are, right? It's not their identity. So.
Yeah, and the whole point I was saying was crazy. Yes. But, doesn't a lot of that go back to Les Miles' relationship with Lloyd Carr? Like,
all that, yeah.
Carr was, like, pretty much –
he wasn't a fan of his.
That will not happen. Like and there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to get into it because a lot of it's rumors and stuff. But there's some stuff that went down with Les Miles supposedly that led to a lot of the disconnect with him and Lloyd Carr. But it just it's wild that came out. That Kirk Herbstreit basically came out and said that Les Miles is going to be the coach of Michigan.
Yeah. And then he goes and he's coaching in a national championship game or wins a national championship at LSU. That's crazy.
Yeah, just wild, just
Yep.
wild. But yeah.
Yep.
Well, any final thoughts on this one, Brian?
This might have been my favorite one yet, and it's not because Michigan lost, but it's just just everything that came with it and the what if. I love the what if history and the aftermath is just it'll be talked about forever in Michigan history. The aftermath of this game, but no, this was a fun one. It's my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was the 2006 Michigan-Ohio State game. Tomorrow night we finish our marathon. Looking back at the 2016 game, we mentioned Jim Harbaugh earlier, and man, what a great one that would be. That might be the best just actual game.
Yeah.
That might have been the best one. Double overtime, absolute thriller, and Michigan fans still think JT was short.
Controversial call. Yep.
Yeah, very good. Well, there was multiple controversial calls in that game. Controversial non-calls. Ohio State had very few penalties in that game.
Right.
All those things we'll talk about and we'll bring up tomorrow as we finish our Michigan-Ohio State marathon. But for tonight, that'll do it. For Brian Barnes, I'm Dan Murphy, and we'll see you tomorrow night.